Human beings have always been fascinated by hidden knowledge. In its popular forms, it appears as the forbidden archive, the secret society, the suppressed gospel, the coded manuscript, or the revelation that overturns everything we thought we knew. In more esoteric traditions, hidden knowledge promises transformation. The initiate sees beneath appearances, escapes the blindness of the ordinary world, and acquires access to a deeper order of reality. Again and again, secrecy is portrayed as a path to power. But what if the content of the secret is less important than the idea that a secret exists? Hidden knowledge may not merely be something possessed. It may also be a tool, a way of creating authority, separating initiates from outsiders, converting uncertainty into mystery, and persuading people that visible institutions conceal an invisible struggle. The person who claims access to the hidden world gains power not because the claim can be proven, but because every gap, contradiction, and denial can be made to deepen the secret. This is the power of hidden knowledge, as a technique to shape belief, provide motivation, and exercise will. Today we posit that the QAnon movement is a model application of this ancient technique of power, transformed for the digital age. At first glance, QAnon looks like a very modern phenomenon. It appears to belong to the age of message boards, anonymous accounts, live streams, hashtags, memes, Telegram channels, influencer economies, and digital mobs. Its imagery is American, its hero is Donald Trump, its enemies are the deep state, the media, Democrats, globalists, Hollywood figures, bureaucrats, and shadowy elites. Its scriptures are not medieval parchments or coded tombstones, but drops, breadcrumbs, screenshots, timestamps, archived posts, and endlessly reassembled fragments of online rumor. But beneath the modern surface lies something much older. QAnon is not merely a conspiracy theory, it is a secret knowledge movement. It takes one of the oldest political techniques in history, the claim that visible reality is a deception and that only the initiated can read the hidden order beneath events, and adapts it to the internet. It turns politics into revelation. It turns citizenship into initiation. It turns propaganda into puzzle solving. And most importantly, it trains a public to experience the narrowing of democracy not as domination, but as rescue. To see what QAnon is, we have to look backward before we look at the screen. Long before Q, secret societies, both traditional and newly invented, had already taught Europe and America how this machinery works. Some secret societies were real, some were exaggerated, some were fabricated. But all of them created the same imaginative possibility, that history is not really governed by public institutions, visible leaders, and ordinary causes, but by hidden orders, concealed masters, secret archives, and initiates who understand what the public cannot. That idea is politically explosive. Once people are trained to believe that the visible world is only a surface, they can be led almost anywhere by whoever claims to possess the key. The Priory of Sion is one of the clearest examples of this method. On paper, the real priory began as a small association in France in the 1950s. In legend, it became something enormous. An ancient order guarding sacred lineage, hidden monarchy, buried documents, and the secret continuity of European authority. Its mythology drew seekers into a maze of Rennes-le-Château, Merovingian bloodlines, parchments, coded messages, hidden tombs, lost kingship, and sacred geography. But the myth's real work was not in the details. The details were bait. The real work was the training of the imagination. The Priory taught that official history was incomplete. It taught that the Republic was not the final authority. It taught that legitimacy might lie outside elections, outside parliaments, outside public law, and outside ordinary historical evidence. It taught that real authority could be hidden, guarded, inherited, and waiting to be restored. It made hierarchy feel like memory. It made secrecy feel like wisdom. It made the desire for a ruler feel like the discovery of a hidden truth. That is the pattern. The Priory did not need to command the state to influence politics. It needed to condition the field in which people imagined authority. It needed to make certain ideas feel natural. that the visible order is false, that the hidden order is real, that only initiates can see the truth, that the present is fallen, that restoration is coming, and that a chosen figure or sacred line will eventually resolve the disorder. This is where the comparison to QAnon begins. QAnon did not ask its followers merely to support Donald Trump. It told them that Trump was at the center of a secret war. It did not ask them merely to distrust the media. It told them that the entire visible information system was a controlled deception. It did not ask them merely to believe a doctrine. It asked them to decode clues. It did not present politics as politics. It presented politics as apocalypse, initiation, revelation, and coming deliverance. The movement began in October 2017, when an anonymous poster calling himself Q appeared on 4chan. The name suggested access to Q clearance, a real category of US Department of Energy security clearance, and the implication was immediate. This was not a normal internet voice. This was an insider. Someone close to the hidden machinery of the state. Someone who knew what ordinary citizens could not know. This was the first move: pseudonymous authority. Q was not the first political operator to understand the power of a hidden name. Pierre Plantard, the French mythmaker, later associated with the Priory of Sion, had already appeared in the 1958 crisis that brought Charles de Gaulle back to power. At that moment, he was not promoting a medieval bloodline story to the public. He was operating in the world of emergency committees, patriotic appeals, propaganda, and political pressure. Under the pseudonym Captain Way, he issued declarations in the name of a Paris area public safety committee network supporting the return of de Gaulle. The name did real work. Captain Way sounded military, clandestine, disciplined, and connected. It made a small propaganda apparatus feel like the visible edge of something larger. The public did not need to know exactly who he was. The uncertainty was part of the effect. Was this a resistance channel, a military liaison, a Gaullist relay, or a patriotic underground? The ambiguity gave the message depth. Q used the same device in digital form. Q was not a normal author, activist, or campaign spokesman. Q was a sign of hidden access. The name implied classified knowledge, proximity to power, and participation in a secret operation. Like Captain Way, Q gave followers a voice they could trust precisely because they could not fully verify it. That is the first move in the method: conceal the speaker, then turn concealment into authority. This is a classic secret society maneuver. The authority is never quite visible. It speaks from behind the curtain. Its very obscurity becomes proof of importance. If the speaker cannot reveal himself, perhaps that is because the stakes are too high. If the message is cryptic, perhaps that is because the truth is too dangerous to state openly. If the evidence is incomplete, perhaps that is because the public is being given only what it is ready to receive. The absence of evidence becomes atmosphere. Q's posts were not normal political arguments. They were fragments, questions, hints, slogans, predictions, military phrases, references to sealed indictments, hidden operations, coming arrests, invisible battles, patriots, the plan, and the storm. The style mattered as much as the content. Q did not write like a pundit. Q wrote like an oracle with a security clearance. That was the second move: the production of an archive. The Priory had dossiers, genealogies, deposited documents, supposed parchments, lists of grandmasters, and trails of planted evidence. Anons had drops. The term itself is revealing. A drop is not a statement. It is a fragment lowered from above. It suggests secrecy, danger, and controlled disclosure. Followers did not merely read the drops. They collected them, archived them, and indexed them. They interpreted them and connected them to current events. This turned the movement into a research cult. The follower was not simply a believer. He became an investigator. He became a decoder. He became a digital soldier. He could search timestamps, compare photographs, parse capitalization, analyze initials, examine Trump's gestures, interpret typos, decode numbers, and assemble fragments into a hidden map of reality. Every participant could feel like a minor initiate in a vast, distributed intelligence operation. This is not incidental, it is the core mechanism. A plain lie asks for belief. A puzzle asks for participation. Participation creates ownership. Once a person has spent hours connecting clues, defending interpretations, explaining patterns and discovering proofs, he no longer feels that he has been told what to think. He feels that he has found the truth himself. That is far more powerful. The Priory's maze worked the same way. Rennes-le-Château, parchments, tomes, inscription, paintings, sacred geometry, and genealogies required labor. The seeker had to work through the mystery. By the time he reached the doctrine, he had already been initiated into its assumptions. Public history was false. Hidden history was real. Official denial was suspicious. Coincidence was meaningful. The archive was alive. Q brought that same method into the digital age. The parchment became the screenshot. The coded inscription became the timestamp. The hidden genealogy became the thread. The secret archive became the aggregator site. The initiate's chamber became the message board. And the sacred bloodline became the hidden war. Here, the American religious context could be used to breathe new life into the old pattern. The Priory operated in a French world still haunted by Catholic monarchy, sacred kingship, hidden lineage, and restoration. Q operated in a United States saturated with Protestant apocalyptic imagery, spiritual warfare, the elect remnant, satanic enemies, corrupt worldly powers, hidden evil, coming judgment, national repentance, and final deliverance. The myth changed costumes, but not function. In the Priory, the public is invited to discover that real authority descends through a hidden line. In QAnon, the public is invited to discover that real authority is acting through a hidden operation. In the Priory, the initiates guard sacred continuity. In QAnon, the patriots guard the plan. In the Priory, the modern republic is a surface that conceals older legitimacy. In QAnon, the visible government is a surface that conceals the war between Trump and the deep state. In the Priory, restoration comes through recognition of the hidden sovereign. In QAnon, restoration comes through trust in the hidden operation and loyalty to the man said to be fighting it. This is why QAnon cannot be understood merely as a convergence of extreme beliefs. Its claims were often bizarre, but the system itself was coherent. It told followers that the world they saw was false, that evil was hidden in plain sight, that the institutions they distrusted were not merely biased but captured, and that Trump was not merely a president but the central instrument of a secret deliverance. That is the third move, the hidden enemy. Every secret knowledge movement needs an enemy powerful enough to justify secrecy and evil enough to justify extraordinary measures. The Priory's enemy was modern forgetfulness, Republican shallowness, corrupted history, and the usurpation of sacred legitimacy. Older conspiracy traditions supplied darker models. The Illuminati, imagined as a hidden order manipulating revolutions. Anti-Masonic panics, imagining occult brotherhoods undermining Christian society. The Taxil hoax, which invented satanic Masonic rites and hidden Luciferian networks. And the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, a forged anti-Semitic text that pretended to reveal the secret minutes of a Jewish plan for world domination. These precedents matter not because they are identical, but because they show the recurring grammar. A hidden cabal, a stolen world, a deceived public, a small number of people who see through the lie, and an approaching moment when the truth will be revealed. QAnon assembled that grammar in American form. Its enemy was the cabal, satanic, global, elite, sexually monstrous, anti-child, anti-God, anti-nation, and deeply embedded in the institutions of public life. The enemy was not merely wrong, it was demonic. It was not merely political, it was metaphysical. It was not merely corrupt, it was ritually evil. This is the point at which politics leaves the realm of disagreement. If the enemy is a normal party, one can oppose it. If the enemy is an ordinary administration, one can vote it out. If the enemy is a mistaken court, one can criticize it. But if the enemy is a satanic cabal that controls the state, the media, finance, culture, medicine, education, and the machinery of elections, then ordinary politics becomes inadequate by definition. Courts are suspect, elections are suspect, journalism is suspect, bureaucracy is suspect, expertise is suspect, defeat itself becomes suspect. This is how the emergency becomes permanent. The Priory's political theology demoted democracy by claiming that legitimacy lived elsewhere. QAnon demoted democracy by claiming that visible institutions were not merely flawed, but occupied. Both moves have the same consequence. If the public system is false, then public accountability can no longer be the final test. If the courts, press, agencies, parties, and electoral processes are part of the deception, then legitimacy must come from the hidden war, the awakened remnant, or the chosen leader. Both moves have the same consequence. If the public system is false, then public accountability can no longer be the final test. If the courts, press, agencies, parties, and electoral processes are part of the deception, then legitimacy must come from the hidden war, the awakened remnant, or the chosen leader. That is the fourth move, awakening. QAnon's most revealing phrase was, "the Great Awakening." It borrowed the language of American revival religion and applied it to political conspiracy. The follower was not learning a theory. He was waking up. He was being saved from illusion. He was seeing what others could not see. The language of awakening is powerful because it reverses the burden of proof. The skeptic is not someone asking reasonable questions. The skeptic is asleep. The journalist is not investigating. The journalist is part of the system. The family member who objects is not worried. He is programmed. The public that refuses the theory is not unconvinced. It is blind. This creates a closed world. Every rejection confirms the need for awakening. Every failed prediction becomes a test of faith. Every debunking becomes proof that the enemy is frightened. Every contradiction becomes part of the plan. Every absence becomes a clue. Secret knowledge systems survive by turning failure into depth. The Priory did this by making missing evidence part of the mystery. If documents were absent, they had been suppressed. If the genealogy was uncertain, that proved it had been concealed. If the order left few traces, that showed how successfully it had guarded its secret. QAnon worked the same way. If mass arrests did not happen, the timeline had shifted. If a prediction failed, disinformation was necessary. If Trump lost an election, the loss itself became part of a deeper operation or proof of hidden fraud. The movement did not collapse under failed prophecy because failed prophecy was absorbed into the myth. This is the fifth move, elastic prophecy. A direct political program can be defeated. A prophecy can be postponed. A legal argument can be answered. A mystery can always deepen. That is why movements built on secret knowledge are so durable. They are not falsified by ordinary evidence because they have already trained followers to distrust ordinary evidence. In older religious movements, prophetic disappointment often produced reinterpretation. The expected event had happened spiritually, invisibly, or on another timetable. In QAnon, the same logic migrated into politics. The storm was always coming, the plan was always unfolding, the arrests were always near, the exposure was always imminent. The public was always just one step away from seeing the truth. This anticipation kept the movement emotionally charged. It gave followers a place inside history. They were not merely reading news. They were living in the final pages before revelation. That emotional placement is crucial. QAnon did not simply tell people what had happened. It told them when they were. They were at the edge of disclosure, at the threshold of judgment, in the secret interval before deliverance. That is an apocalyptic structure. It does not require a formal church. It only requires a public trained to experience current events as signs of the end of an old world. This is the sixth move, convergence on the salvific figure. For the Priory, restoration pointed toward hidden kingship, sacred lineage, and the return of legitimate authority. In 1958, France, the emergency politics of public safety converged on de Gaulle, the man presented as standing above the parties and capable of restoring the state. In QAnon, every line converged on Donald Trump. Trump was not simply supported, he was mythologized. He was the man chosen to expose the hidden enemy. The man who knew. The man surrounded by patriots. The man whose cryptic gestures, phrases, typos, and timings were treated as signals from inside the plan. His political conflict became sacred drama. His enemies became the cabal. His defeats became deception. His survival became proof. His return became prophecy. This is the essential move that turns conspiracy into political mobilization. Without a salvific figure, the movement remains scattered suspicion. With the figure, suspicion gains direction, fear becomes loyalty, confusion becomes expectation, resentment becomes obedience. The leader does not have to issue precise commands. He becomes the point of convergence. The public has already been trained to move toward him. This is why QAnon could be decentralized and still politically coherent. Its followers did not need a conventional organization because they had a shared myth. They did not need a membership card because they had a language. They did not need a central committee because they had the drops, the influencers, the slogans, the enemies, the promise, and the figure. Here again, the French pattern is useful. The public safety committees of 1958 did not need to represent the whole French people in any normal democratic sense. They needed to create the appearance of national convergence. They multiplied signs, they issued statements, they invoked emergency. They made the fragmented political field seem to point toward one man. Their power was not proportional representation, it was psychological pressure. QAnon did something similar through digital means. It multiplied signs across platforms. A post on an anonymous board became a thread became a video became a meme became a Facebook group became a rally sign became proof that the movement was real. The repetition became its own evidence. This is the seventh move, the manufacture of breadth. Secret knowledge movements are often smaller at the center than they appear from the outside. Their strength comes from multiplication. A small source produces fragments. Interpreters elaborate them. Followers repeat them. Influencers monetize them. Communities localize them. Political actors exploit them. Soon the original source is less important than the ecosystem it has created. The Priory's documents did this. They created a trail that others could follow, amplify, and reinterpret. Authors, researchers, broadcasters, skeptics, believers, and popular novels all extended the mythology. The Priory became larger in circulation than it had ever been in fact. QAnon followed the same path. Q's own posts were only the seed. The movement became powerful when others became interpreters. The bakers assembled the crumbs. YouTubers explained the plan. Facebook groups translated the theory into lifestyle politics. Pastors mapped it onto spiritual warfare. Influencers connected it to anti-vaccine activism, election denial, anti-trafficking campaigns, anti-globalism, anti-media resentment, and Christian nationalist rhetoric. The myth became modular. It could attach itself to nearly any grievance. That modularity is one of QAnon's most important features. It could absorb older conspiracy traditions, satanic panic, New World Order fears, anti-Masonic suspicion, Illuminati mythology, anti-Semitic tropes, anti-communism, anti-globalism, anti-Hollywood moral panic, anti-bureaucratic resentment, and apocalyptic Christianity. It could also absorb new crises, pandemic restrictions, vaccines, school policy, election administration, border politics, foreign wars, and distrust of expertise. Each new crisis became another sign. Each sign strengthened the hidden war. This is the eighth move, total interpretation. In a normal political worldview, different events may have different causes. In a secret knowledge system, every event belongs to the same plot. Nothing is accidental, nothing is local, nothing is merely bureaucratic, economic, cultural, or legal. everything points back to the hidden enemy and forward to the promised revelation. This gives the believer a terrible clarity. The world becomes simpler because all complexity has been absorbed into a single drama. There is good and evil, patriots and traitors, the awakened and the asleep, children and predators, God and Satan, Trump and the cabal, the plan and the deception. That kind of clarity can be emotionally addictive. It gives meaning to fear. It gives purpose to resentment. It gives dignity to confusion. It gives community to isolation. It turns ordinary citizens into participants in a cosmic struggle. And once politics becomes cosmic struggle, compromise becomes betrayal. This is the ninth move, the recoding of opposition. The Priory's restorationist mythology recoded democracy as a shallow interruption of sacred continuity. QAnon recoded opposition to Trump as participation in evil. Not always explicitly, and not for every follower in exactly the same way, but structurally. If Trump is fighting a satanic cabal, then those who oppose him are not merely voters, judges, journalists, officials, or citizens with different views. They are obstacles to deliverance. They are protecting the lie. They are part of the darkness, whether knowingly or unknowingly. This is the dangerous threshold. A republic can survive disagreement. It cannot survive a mass public trained to believe that disagreement with the chosen figure is complicity in absolute evil. At that point, ordinary safeguards begin to look illegitimate. Investigations become persecution. Courts become captured. Election results become fraud. Certification becomes treason. Transfer of power becomes surrender to the cabal. Violence can begin to appear defensive because the imagined enemy is already understood as monstrous. This is how myth moves toward action. QAnon's direct role in any given event must be assessed carefully. Not every Trump supporter was QAnon. Not every person who believed election fraud claims believed Q drops. Not every Christian nationalist was a Q follower. But QAnon became part of a larger pressure field. It helped spread a way of seeing. It fused distrust, prophecy, leader worship, hidden war thinking, and apocalyptic urgency into the political atmosphere around Trump. That atmosphere mattered before January 6th. It mattered because it trained people to believe that visible defeat was not real defeat. It mattered because it taught them that institutions were captured. It mattered because it made them expect a dramatic reversal. It mattered because it told them that the fate of the nation, and perhaps the fate of good and evil, depended on whether the hidden enemy could be stopped. Here, the French comparison becomes exact in structure, even if different in scale and outcome. In France, the public safety committees helped convert a colonial and military crisis into a metropolitan demand for de Gaulle. They helped manufacture necessity. They did not need to be the whole nation. They had to create the impression that the nation was converging. They did not need to overthrow legality directly. They had to pressure legal authorities until legality opened the door to the man already framed as necessary. In the QAnon world, the digital movement helped convert distrust of institutions into expectation of Trump's extraordinary vindication. It did not need to be the whole electorate. It had to create the impression of hidden majority, awakened people, suppressed truth, and coming restoration. It did not need a formal command structure. It needed to produce pressure, belief, and readiness. This is the 10th move, converting revelation into politics. The secret has to become action. The awakened public has to do something. It may vote, it may donate, it may harass, it may protest, it may intimidate officials, it may flood platforms, it may run for local office, it may enter school boards, it may reject public health authorities, it may demand audits, it may pressure legislatures, it may show up at rallies believing that history is about to turn. This is where secret knowledge stops being a fantasy and becomes a political instrument. The old language of secret societies helps us see why. A secret society is powerful not only because of what it hides, but because of what it makes people imagine. Its unseen center allows followers to project strength, discipline, antiquity, wisdom, and inevitability onto it. The mystery creates more power than the institution may actually possess. The Priory was not powerful because it truly guarded the kings of Europe. It was powerful because it taught people to imagine that such hidden guardianship might be real. QAnon was not powerful because Q reliably predicted events or commanded the state. It was powerful because it trained a public to imagine that an invisible operation was unfolding around them. The difference is that QAnon achieved mass scale. The Priory's world required books, archives, magazines, television specials, and a long trail of esoteric research. QAnon operated at internet speed. It could produce a clue in the morning and 1,000 interpretations by night. It could turn ambiguity into content, content into community, and community into pressure. The movement was not slowed by contradiction because contradiction produced more interpretation. It was not weakened by decentralization because decentralization made it harder to pin down. It was not confined to one doctrine because it could absorb many. QAnon was the Priory method after the message board. It was also the conceal method after social media. Leo Conceal fabricated tales of satanic Freemasonry in the 19th century and watched them circulate among people already primed to fear hidden anti-Christian orders. QAnon likewise flourished among audiences primed to fear satanic corruption, elite predation, and anti-Christian power. The older hoax depended on a Catholic anti-Masonic imagination. QAnon depended on American apocalyptic and populist distrust. It was the protocols method after live streaming. The protocols pretended to reveal secret minutes of a hidden cabal plotting world control. QAnon pretended to reveal clues from inside a hidden war against a cabal controlling world events. The targets and historical consequences are not identical, and the anti-Semitic history of the protocols must be named directly. But the document logic recurs. A text claims to expose the hidden plan, and the reader is invited into privileged knowledge of the enemy. It was the Illuminati panic after the deep state. The old Illuminati legend turned political upheaval into the work of hidden subversives. QAnon turned institutional opposition to Trump into proof of a hidden government at war with the people. Each precedent contributed a technique: secret society, forged archive, satanic enemy, hidden cabal, initiated remnant, apocalyptic struggle, restoring figure, public awakening. QAnon fused them into one digital mythology. The result was not simply misinformation. Misinformation is a false claim. QAnon was a world. It had a prophet, an archive, a method of interpretation, a demonology, a soteriology, an eschatology, a political messiah, a community of initiates, a promise of revelation, and a theory of why ordinary evidence could not be trusted. That is why it cannot be answered only by fact-checking. Fact-checking matters, but it reaches only the claim. QAnon's deeper power lay in the structure that made the claim emotionally necessary. The follower did not merely believe that some event happened. He believed he had been awakened into the hidden architecture of history. To pull someone out of that world, you really have to understand what the world gives them. It gives them certainty in chaos. It gives them status in confusion. It gives them community in isolation. It gives them a mission in political defeat. It gives them enemies who explain their pain. It gives them a leader who turns their resentment into destiny. It gives them a story in which they are not powerless spectators, but participants in the final battle. This is why the movement has survived even after Q's posting faded. Once the public has been trained in the method, the original oracle becomes less necessary. The system can continue without him. The drops can stop, but the interpretive machine remains. New clues can be found. New enemies can be named. New crises can be absorbed. New prophecies can be postponed. New influencers can take over the role of translation. That is another lesson from the Priory. A fabricated order can outlive its fabricator. A planted archive can generate decades of interpretation. A symbolic machine can keep running after its central claim has been exposed. The myth survives because it has already taught people how to desire it. So what really was QAnon? It was not only a conspiracy theory about elites. It was not only a pro-Trump movement. It was not only an internet cult. It was a political initiation system built on secret knowledge. It recycled ancient methods of occult authority, forged revelation, apocalyptic expectation, and restorationist longing, then distributed them through the architecture of modern media. It began with a hidden voice. It created an archive. It turned readers into decoders. It named a monstrous enemy. It declared the visible order false. It promised a great awakening. It made failed prophecy survivable. It gathered scattered grievances into one drama. It converged that drama on a single salvific figure. It converted myth into political pressure. And in doing so, it showed how old the future can be. The symbols may be digital, but the method is ancient. The screen replaced the parchment. The message board replaced the secret lodge. The drop replaced the dossier. The influencer replaced the interpreter of sacred signs. The deep state became the hidden cabal. Formal initiation gave way to the Great Awakening. The drops anointed Trump as the hidden king. And so, the ancient method was updated and tuned for virality. Teach the public that what it sees is false. Teach it that the truth is hidden and only initiates can read the signs. Teach it that the enemy controls the visible world and ordinary institutions are part of the deception. Teach it that crisis is confirmation. Teach it that restoration is coming. Teach it that one man stands at the center of the hidden war. Then just wait for the public to demand what it has been trained to expect. That is the deepest danger of QAnon. Not that it made people believe one false story, but that it trained them in a political habit, to seek sovereignty outside the visible republic, to trust revelation over accountability, to treat pluralism as corruption, and to experience loyalty to a leader as participation in a sacred rescue. The Priory of Sion taught that the real king was hidden in history. QAnon taught that the real president was hidden inside the plan. Both stories ask the same thing of the public. Stop trusting the institutions you can see, and give your faith to the authority that claims to be concealed. That is not just a conspiracy theory. That is a method of power.